SimWorld, what it do? You know what it is. You know what time it is. It is time. Get your behind together. And it is time for Blazing Takes, the number one show here on SimWorld. I am Rick Blaze. And of course, you know I'm joined by my fair-skinned brother, Siege. How are we doing?
We're doing good. It's a beautiful, what's day? Oh, it's Friday. One of my favorite days of the week. We got a big weekend coming up. Had a nice week. So let's jump right into it, Rick. I got some stuff for you. Let's see your thoughts. So today, Pierre Dupont, you remember a while ago, we talked about he was leaving SimWorld Africa. He was going back home to New Orleans. Wanted to take some time at home, hang out with family, develop his game, things like that. Well, there was kind of an initial expectation that Pierre Dupont was potentially heading back to SimWorld Africa, that return was kind of more likely than not. Story came out today. I got some sources telling me that there are some concerns that he may not commit to SimWorld Africa. So, where does that leave us with Pierre Dupont? What is he looking at? Is he looking at staying home with Gulf Coast? Is he looking at maybe not playing in SimWorld Prep? What's he looking at? And the second part of that, Rick, SimWorld Africa, that's a big piece. He's a really talented player. Where does that leave them? Because obviously, since he went home, they would have had to use a sponsorship to bring him back. Does that free up a sponsorship? And what kind of guys can they kind of look at to fill that hole?
Man, look, this is a bleep show. This is a complete bleep show, and I blame Coach Heesh. I know you're saying, well, why in the hell are you blaming Coach Heesh? Because I assume, I don't know any information, I haven't asked anybody, but I'm going to assume really quickly that my man Pierre Dupont, the thought of him going back home, playing for Gulf Coast, was his goal. Until he got back home and saw how Gulf Coast was ran. I'm assuming Coach Heesh didn't have Pierre Dupont in his plans. Hell, he might not even reached out to Pierre Dupont. So Pierre Dupont is stuck in his room with his you-know-what in his hand because he's thinking he's going back to New Orleans and play for his city. And Coach Heesh has other plans. I assume, again, I haven't heard from Coach Heesh or Pierre or anybody. I assume. So what the Pierre has to do? Pierre's like, oh, well, snap. This is not going as planned, or maybe they're not running the scheme that I thought they was going to run, or maybe the coach didn't hit me up at all. Let me go back to Africa, the motherland. But now, since you're not a natural native for the motherland, now it's going to cost Africa some coin, some sponsorship to get you to the motherland. Now, here's the other problem. Africa ain't got the money. Hell, they barely got on shoes. So now you try to get a player who's on your team, but not from your country, back to the team, but you ain't got the money to bring them back to the team. It's a total belief show. A total belief show.
I mean, I agree in a sense. It's kind of a mess, but we're assuming a lot in that mess. One, I don't know the international teams, their budgets, what they got, how they can do that, because my assumption was, since we were assuming this potential reunion, is that they have at least one sponsorship worth of funds available, and that's what they were going to potentially use to bring him back. Now, I don't know if maybe the reason that it's not happening is because that's not there, but the way that sources kind of related to me was that it was more on Pierre's side, that he wasn't sure he wanted to go back international and leave the States again. So I'm kind of assuming that SimWorld Africa does have at least enough funds to bring in one sponsored player if they would like to. Now, we saw the Basketball Without Borders Africa game the other day. There's a lot of talent there, but if you got the cash, maybe you start looking at some of these guys who haven't committed yet, that maybe you're looking to be more of a spotlight on a team. And I think there's some interesting guys out there. One, to me, Nick Beal, he's the number one recruit in the Northeast. We haven't heard anything about him. We saw some flashes of him last year with the Reigning Trays. Does SimWorld Africa maybe say, hey, we can go get that scorer to put next to Akola and kind of have a nice 1-2 punch scoring-wise? So I think there's a lot of options. Another one, and this is assuming a lot. This is assuming that they not only have enough sponsorship for one guy, but two, which might be a bold assumption. But let's say for hypothetical sake they do. Okay. Story came out last night that rumors are Kai Killens has not, really been leaning anywhere committing, because him and his brother JJ Hoops are very intent on playing together and going a place where they can kind of be the focal point. That's the rumors. we don't have direct news on that from Kai, anything, but that's the rumors. If I'm SimWorld Africa and I can find a way to do that, I'm bringing both those guys in and I'm saying, look, you guys can be the focal point of this team. You two and Cola, that's our three. Great. So I think there's a lot of options. And again, we don't know their financial situation, but I think there's a lot they need to do. But Pierre Dupont would have filled a big hole for them. He's a great piece. So we'll just kind of have to see how they play out.
Yeah, financial situations aside, because I don't know what those things are. I know they're poor, but I don't know. I don't know how many people they can bring in. I don't know any of those things. But the first thing that Africa needs to do, and their coach specifically, we need to figure out what are we going to be doing as a team this season.
Yeah.
What are we running? Are we giving the ball to Cola? Let Cola do his thing. Because Cola's a point guard, so he's going to pass the rock. And if that's the case, if you're going to run a Jason Kidd-like offense where Cola's going to have the ball in his hands and he's going to make the play for his players, then you need to give him some shooters. I know they got Ethan Letterman. I probably need to give maybe like one more shooter. Kai Killings is not a outside shooter like that.
He's
not
more
really
ball
his thing.
dominant. He's more ball dominant for sure.
Correct. So if you get a Kai Killings, that means you're taking the ball out of Cola's hands. They both can't have the ball. So as a coach, the first thing to do is figure out what the heck are we going to be doing as a system, and then you could build it. So I think if you,
I don't know if that's
the system,
I don't know if that's what I think makes sense for SimWorld Africa though.
If you keep the system in Cola's hands, and you need to give him another shooter like a Nick, then you go get a Nick Bill. If you keep the ball in Cola's hands, you'll get a Nick Bill. If you're gonna get a Kai Killings, then a Cola is not. You're not gonna get the best out of a Cola because he's not a shooter like that.
But that's where I disagree about how they need to go about things. Because here's the thing: SimWorld Africa is not. They didn't have like a solid system last year. They didn't have Cola's a great player, but and look, no disrespect to Cola, he's a very talented player, but is he the level of guy that you're like, he's our guy, we're going to build around him? Or if you're SimWorld Africa right now and you're trying to make an impression, you're trying to make a statement, build your name, are you just going to go out and get all the talent you can and then make it work? For me, that feels like a much better move for SimWorld Africa right now. If we can get our hands on a guy like Kai Killens, or likely not, a guy like Kai Killens or Tyree Wells, but if we can, we bring them in and with Cola, and we build our system around that, because I think where SimWorld Africa is as a team right now, they don't have an identity. They've got a good player in Cola, but they don't have that identity yet.
And that's the issue with not only Africa but a lot of teams. You need to have an identity before you start getting players. Don't just grab a bunch of guys and say, "Oh yeah, let's figure out our identity now." Hell no, that's not how this works. You need to already know who you are. It's like dating somebody. It's like somebody asking you what you like to do in your free time, but you don't know because you haven't figured yourself out yet. Well, how the hell am I supposed to figure out how to help yourself if you don't know how to help yourself yet? So if you're Africa, if you're any team, this goes for any team, and you're the coach, you need to figure out first, what are we?
But what are we trying to be? They don't have the pieces to know that yet. They don't have that.
They have some pieces there, and you've seen the talent on the Basketball with Borders games, so you know what kind of pieces in your neighboring area you could bring in. Jolly Mo Osborne needs to be on your team now. Needs to be on your team. Medina, he can be on your team now. Like, there's guys you can already bring in that before you go start looking outside of your country. Bring those guys in. Take a look at those guys and already figure out this is what we're wanting to do with what we have. And then you're going to figure out what you're missing and then try to see if you can bring somebody in. But people's doing these things backwards.
Look,
you need to do it the right way.
That part I agree with. They've got to do more in region kind of looking at players. That part is for sure. But I think still in that sense, I don't know if they're at a place where they're still looking in region as what's going to fit with what we're doing, because I don't know that they know what they're doing yet. So if I'm them,
if you don't know what you're doing already before Sunday come, you don't already know what you're doing, then you're already in last place.
No, but that's the thing is, Coach, let's take last year as an example. Coach Drayton spent all season bringing in new guys, fixing rotations, figuring out their identity so that by the time they got to the race to one, they looked like a machine, and that got them a championship. So I do agree that here's the thing: if you've got a good base, yeah, you stick with what you're doing and you build around it. But they don't have any semblance of that right now. They've got a great piece, they've got a couple of good pieces, but if I'm them right now, I'm looking in region, see what kind of talent I can grab. I'm grabbing the best talent I can, and I'm making them fit. Sometimes as a coach, that's what you got to do, because if you can make pieces fit around, Cola, that's great, but is it going to be enough to be good? It might be an identity, but is it going to win you games? And I think that's where they got to be right now, is they got to go get talent.
Okay, we got to move on to the next subject, but I will say this. Coach Drayton is the exception to the rule. He makes all his moves very meticulously. He's not freestyling and he's not freestyling on any player. He already knows what he's looking for, and he already believes this player can fit that role. So he's the exception to the rule. I wish other coaches was doing what he was doing. There's probably like maybe 2 other coaches that feel as strong as Coach Drayton is in the coaching and in the recruiting standpoint, and that's why I think him and those other 2 coaches are probably going to be the top 3 teams coming into the season. So, speaking of coming to the season, we're talking about Sunday. It's the big day. It's the big dance. There's been a lot of engagements. There's been a lot of rings putting on the wrong fingers. But starting Sunday, baby, the marriage will be, the license will be official. The marriage will be official. You are who you are at this point in time. So let's talk about Sunday, the big Sunday. This is Super Bowl Sunday from a recruiting standpoint. And I'm excited. It's kicking off at 12 Eastern time. Is that correct, Steve?
Yep, 12 Eastern time, special Eastern edition, time, SimWorld today.
Special edition. Make sure you guys are locked in. A lot of guests are going to be on the show. A lot of the media is going to be making appearances on the show. We're going to be telling. It's going to be very similar to draft on the NFL draft. So if you ever seen the NFL draft, it's going to be very similar to that.
We're going to get a lot of analysis from different perspectives. We're going to get breaking news on there. You're not going to want to miss this one.
Don't miss this one. I'm going to ask you this, Steve. Which team? We're going to do 2 things. And I'm going to tie this into our pick and roll. Which team are you most excited to hear about some news? Which team are you most excited to hear about? We have already
established one of the teams I'm most excited to hear about, and that's the H-Town Hoopers. I keep hearing Bilardi's moving in silence. He's got stuff in the works. He's already got Almighty Saul to add to Tyrell Thompson and Vincent Magic, but there's got to be more. Is he bringing somebody else in? I know you said barbecue and tacos, so Sunday's the day we're going to get to find out what exactly that means.
We finally get to see what I'm talking about.
I'm excited for H-Town. I'm also really excited to see what else Best Coast Ballers has in store. We saw them. They got that soft commit from DJ Davis, who's a very, very talented recruit, can shoot the lights out. But as we know, they've got a pretty empty roster. And I'm assuming there's some more coming for Best Coast. So I'm excited to see what else they've got in the works. And I'm excited to see these secrets that the magical wizard, Coach Bilardi, has been holding from us.
Yep. I'm excited to see what I'm not going to say Bilardi because I've already said it in a previous show. I'm excited to see what Coach Dries has up his sleeve. I like Coach Dries. He's one of the other coaches that I think is on par with how he goes about his business, like a Coach Drayton does. So I'm excited to see what he does. He already got Monty Parsons with a verbal commitment. He already has my man Hall. He already has J.O. I'm excited to see how he rounds out this squad to see how he's going to compete. I think he's going to be a heavy competitor. His team will be a heavy competitor this upcoming season. Now, pick and roll before we get out of here. We're going to keep it the same situation. What team, we're going to predict, what team is going to be, for you, is going to be the biggest loser after Sunday? Which team will be the biggest loser after Sunday?
Biggest loser?
Yep, biggest loser. They're not going to get the job done. Their roster's they're going to be the biggest loser on come Sunday, when Sunday ends.
I'm thinking, I'm going to be real with you. I think it's going to be Run DMV. I think Run DMV, we talked about them during this period, about maybe being able to retain Nick Hugo. That seems to be kind of not super out of the question because it's still soft commitment period, so you never know. But he's gone. They were in the running for Richard Hennessy. That seems to be gone. I'm kind of wondering what do they have? What do they have? What's going to keep this team going? Now, they've got some pieces. Brandon Smith's a nice piece. John Hudgens, people are really looking forward to hopefully him taking a step. But in terms of commitments, I don't know. I don't know if they come out with much.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was going to say Run DMV as well. So I'm going to pick another team. The team I'm going to be in second to last place. as opposed to a Run DMV, I think it's going to be Bad Boys. I don't think they're going to do enough. I don't think they're going to. You're not going to replace Phenom. I don't think they're going to have enough to make a big enough splash to make me feel like as a Bad Boy fan, like, I think we're good this season. I think they're going to be.
If I'm a Bad Boy fan, it doesn't matter who we're getting. I don't feel too good this season after losing Phenom. I mean, they got Boggs. They still got Boggs. I'm maybe, but news came out this morning that Jawan Harris is leaning there, so that might be some news we get. But yeah, I'm not too high on Bad Boys coming into the season, but I've been wrong before. I
haven't been wrong too many times. So we're going to agree. Run DMV going to be in last place at Sunday, and then close behind that is going to be Bad Boys. All right, it's nothing left to see, nothing else to talk about, but to just see it happen and unfold. Don't forget that we have the KBB game on Saturday. Make sure you guys check that out. And then Sunday is big ticket time, baby. We're going to see you boys at the draft, but the recruit. We make these formal announcements. I'm excited. I can't wait. See you guys on Saturday and Sunday.